All right, so today we're going to show you a natural way to water your trees here in the Arizona desert. That's coming up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you here today on a very, very hot August morning. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning or so. It is hot, hot, hot. So really what it narrows down to, what we wanted to cover with you, because we're kind of going through this series where we're showing you how we irrigate and water our fruit trees. And one of the things that I think most people don't think about is the fact that while we are in a desert, the Sonoran Desert that we're in here is also very green. And one of the reasons why it stays green is because in the summertime, like we have now, we get monsoons, which we had a very, very good, strong monsoon season so far. So being the third week of August here in 2018, I've had a lot of rain come through the valley and then out here into Whitman. Even had a little microburst and a trampoline trying to squash one of our mulberry trees. But got a lot of crazy weather that happens. And of course, we get rainfall. So one of the big challenges with rainfall here in Arizona is that we get rainfall really, really hard at very, very short periods of time. So, you know, we'll get an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches of rain that'll fall in a few hours. That'll just kind of just be this torrential downpour, and then it all just kind of floods away. And one of the things in Whitman, we've talked a little bit about this as well, is we have a lot of shallow washes that are here in the Whitman area that kind of go throughout Whitman. And we even have a shallow wash that's on both sides, actually winds up being on both sides of our property. Real shallow, but they do run from time to time, and we actually had that happening this year, in fact, just last week. So one of the things that we've talked about in our irrigation series, I'll link that here for you, is the fact that the vast majority of the time our trees need to be on irrigation, and we water pretty heavily, even though we have wood chips and some other things that'll help retain moisture. Still need a lot of water because we don't get it on a regular basis. So the challenge that we're faced with is, okay, we do get rain, and we get a lot of rain at one time, so how do we store that rain to benefit us and help us with our fruit trees, and then of course just the soil health in general? So a few things we do, obviously number one would be wood chips. So we use wood chips on every single tree that we have here on the property that is a fruiting tree. We even use it on a couple of the native mesquite and creosote bushes. We do some mulching around those as well, just to try to retain more moisture for those trees. They do really, really well because of it. But with our fruit trees, we do use wood chips. We talked a lot about that donut that we build around the trees themselves, and I'm right here next to the cadota. So if Lori wants to pan down, just as a reminder, we use drip irrigation, as we've talked about before, and we build what essentially is a ring and a berm. So that berm on the outside helps to retain the water around the tree, so the water itself drains down into the ground. Now, when we get those heavy rains, those heavy monsoon rains, those berms, that are built around in that ring, will actually pool water around the tree, let it soak down into the ground. To obviously water the tree and also to feed the soil life that we've created with our wood chips and the different types of amendments that we use, and obviously our natural fertilizers that we use. So, so that's kind of number one. So, and obviously with our irrigation, that's our primary watering. So that's all well and good, but what else could we do as far as irrigation or watering, in this case retention of water when we get those crazy monsoon storms? And what we've done, in addition to the berms that we essentially build around those rings around the tree, we've also designed a swale. So you'll notice where we are right now is not the primary part of the farm, or what we call our farm, which is on the back part of the property. We're actually at the front of the property, which is what I wanted to show you. So what we're testing is a permaculture technique, and it's called a swale. Without getting into too much detail, because I'm not a permaculture expert, but I do understand the basic principles, and we did build a small swale at the front of our house. So what we have is, we have on both sides of our house, we have shallow washes. Well, it was originally a single wash, a single shallow wash, but because of the houses that we have around us and our house as well, that water comes around our house and then drains into the front of the street. So what we're here on our dirt road, our street, but we're here on our dirt road, and what happens is we get that rain that comes around our house and the heavy flooding that happens during the monsoon, and it actually just drains out into the street. And if Lori wants to pan down, you guys could see it. We had rain about 2 or 3 days ago, and you can see see that we still have water that's pooled up here in the street because we have a wash that comes right through here, back in through our neighbor's house and then out into the desert. So because we have that, what we have is we have water that comes in behind me, comes down around our house, and then essentially funnels back down into the street. So what we've done is we've created a swale, and a swale is built on contour, which simply means I have water that comes this way down, I have water that comes around this way, so the swale is built so that it basically can harness or hold some of that water. So before we put these trees in, we knew that it needed to look nice because this is the front of our property. We do have a few neighbors, and so we want to make sure as they're driving by it looks nice. We want to make sure it's productive, so of course it's fruit trees. What else would it be? But we also wanted to make sure that we could try to make it look good, but also kind of fit into the landscape and utilize some of the natural resources that are unique to the front part of our house. Now our house is built much, much higher. So I'm standing down on street level here, and our house probably has about a good 6 to 8 feet that it goes up from street level. It actually increases up to about 6 to 8 feet from where I'm standing now, and that's the pad of our house. So it's raised up quite a bit from street level. So we get water that runs off the house. We also have the water that comes around. So what we've done is we've built a swale that comes through this area here. It kind of goes along with the contour of the trees that we created. We put rings around the trees because we wanted it to look nice for our neighbors. But we created rings around the trees. And one of the things that you'll notice if you look at our Cadota fig video, and I'll link that here for you, is you'll see water pooled up next to me. And the reason why that water is pooled up next to me is the swale we've created. So this swale, if you look down here, we have water that comes down through here, comes down between our house and our neighbor's house. And our neighbor actually keeps horses. I think they've got 3 or 4 horses on their property. So that water comes through, and guess what it's full of? Manure. So it's got water mixed with manure, so you kind of got this compost tea thing going on that comes down from their property and comes right down through here. So what we've done is we've built a swale that's no higher than the bricks that we have around the ring of that tree, because we don't want the water flooding into the tree and washing out all of our wood chips. So the swale that we built is about the same height as the highest part of those bricks. Now we of course can add a second layer of bricks and build this swale up higher, which we may do in the future, but the swale basically goes here, runs along the front of all these trees to capture that water as it comes down off the house and then down between the houses, and it does a fantastic job of it. We came through, we do obviously want to keep this nice, and normally I would have kept some of the weeds that we had growing here down on the ground to help retain the moisture, but we want it to look nice, so you'll see those have become mulch around our trees. So we did do that this morning, but a lot of natural grass, so this desert kind of grass that we have that grows out here was growing here. Lots of different types of weeds were growing down in here because it's holding water. So that water stays here, it waters our trees, it actually percolates down into the ground. We're on a well here, so it percolates down into the ground. It's helping to recharge our water supply for us and all of our neighbors. So we harness that water on a small scale here with the use of this swale. So keeps water in here, keeps water around the trees. Obviously we have these rings around the trees which are not very big. The roots of these trees are already past that, and because of this swale and the water that it's keeping here and seeping down into the dirt, we've gone from what you couldn't see when we first got here, which was just this rock hard dirt that had just let water run straight off, and now it's actually loose. So I can just take my fingers and actually dig into this soil. This is the same stuff that I wouldn't even be able to use a chisel really and get down into, and I can now get into it with my fingers with nothing else that we've done here, well, except for me trying to mess up my swale. But anyway, so the water will pool down in here, seeps down in, waters the fruit tree, recharges our water supply, and it's really kind of a cool technique that we used to help capture some water and irrigate our fruit trees. All right, so just want to thank you for joining us today. And you know what, if you haven't done so already, hey, subscribe to our channel. We talk about a lot of different things here. This summer, we're really focusing on our fruit trees. We got the fall coming up with livestock production that we want to share with you as well. Really love to have you as a subscriber. And hey, if you have any questions or comments, hey, leave them in the comment section down below. If you, especially with permaculture, for you permaculture like gurus out there, if you've got some suggestions, some techniques that you think we might be able to use here, we'd love to see those comments as well. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you.